Welcome back to eSIM Studios. My name is Taylor Bell. I wanted to go over, possibly review, possibly look into the future a little bit, and a very interesting change. A staple in the Apple world might be gone forever and or slowly phased out. And there's some people saying that the phase out of this specific iconic product is already started. So what is that product I'm talking about? Well, before we get to that, you have to look at what is potentially going to take its place. Now, it's not a new product. This is a product that is very popular, another staple in the Apple lineup that's just going to get better and is going to phase out another product, because once this product gets these upgrades, you're going to see the sales dwindle from that product that we are going to talk about that will eventually be phased out. So let me pull up my screen here. So what product am I talking about that we are going to see get improved, that will eventually pinch out? Apple and their MacBooks are going to get massive upgrades that a lot of people have been yearning for, that have been asking Apple to implement these on their products. Now, I very recently, and for a short period of time, had a MacBook Air and wanted to give it a try, right? It was the M4 MacBook Air. And look, I'm not an Apple person. I wanted to give it a try, see if I can get used to it, see if I like it. Apple products are weird because I definitely don't like the iPhone. iPads, they're okay. But I've never tried a MacBook before. I tried an iPhone, tried an iPad, never a MacBook. And the one thing when I did try this MacBook that was killing me is no touchscreen. Because I guess you can't look. I have a Windows PC laptop right here, the touchscreen. I don't even have to use my mouse. I can, it's so easy for touch. And I have an OLED. So one thing that was like blowing my mind with this stupid MacBook was, damn, I kept on touching the screen, and you can tell when stuff is not OLED. Now, I know these are first world problems, but I was like, I don't know, something done LCD, OLED, it's just not even a comparison to me. So Apple's going to squash both of those, both of my complaints, and add something on top that's going to push out another product. So there is a new report now that that MacBook, and we're going to get it soon, is they're going to implement a brand new MacBook product called the MacBook Ultra. Now, that MacBook Ultra is going to have a touch screen display, and they're going to put an OLED panel on this MacBook. Not only that, but the third option that's going to blow your mind is Apple, and I'll link these down below. Apple is planning on putting their new modem in there. Apple came out with that, what was it, the C1 modem that they tested out in the iPhone Air, and they're going to eventually phase out the Qualcomm modems and place their C series modems, I think next year, or is it this year, with the C2. Well, Apple's going to implement that C2 modem, the upcoming C2 modem, in this MacBook Ultra. So not only are you going to have a new OLED panel, you're going to get touchscreen, and you're going to get 5G support. Now, I fully expect them to make it eSIM only, right? But that's going to change the game for many people that have been yearning for simple touchscreen displays or the beautiful OLED. Now, I'm not to say that their current display is trash, because it's certainly not, but there's a difference between LCD and OLED. There just is. But enabling 5G on these MacBooks is going to do wonders for them, and it makes me wonder why it's taking them so freaking long. Now, after they implement the OLED, the touchscreen, and the 5G, what Apple product do you think it would pinch out? Certainly not the iPhone. The iPhone is a different. It's in a unique class of its own. It's a specific product for a specific need. Got it with you everywhere you go, even when you sit down to do your business, if you know what I mean. Even when you go to the pool, movies, you get the point. Well, the only other product really would be the iPad. So, if you can tell from the title of this story, a lot of people, including myself, after reading a couple articles, started, and that's why I made this video, starting to think, damn, you know what? I think the insiders that are predicting this, I think I can see this becoming true. I think putting OLED panels on here, because the iPad, they do have OLED panels. Now, obviously not the mini, but I didn't the Pro, again, I'm not an Apple person. I believe the Pro iPad has OLED panels, but obviously touchscreen. And here's the thing, they've been trying to keep them separate over the years, iPad, MacBook, and I think that's why they've held off for so long not putting touchscreens on these MacBooks. They've held out for so long, and I'm sure money reasons have to do something with it, but not putting OLED panels on these MacBooks. But now's the time. Now is the time. If you get an iPad, if anybody has an iPad, I don't know the percentage, but I would guess a large percentage of the iPad owners have a keyboard combination, something of the sort, whether it's may not be an Apple keyboard or a case with a keyboard included connected to it. You could just have a Bluetooth keyboard just like this Logitech keyboard and attach it to your iPad, right? I mean, via Bluetooth. But having a keyboard, adding it onto, connecting it with the iPad is essentially another version of a MacBook. Now, I know Apple, as I mentioned before, trying to keep them separate, but as time goes on, Apple's sort of taking features from the iPad, implementing it onto the MacBook, and vice versa, taking MacBook features and implementing it on iPad OS. So you can see where this is going. Now, one thing that would really get rid of the iPad is if they made the MacBook a 360. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, my laptop over here is in 360 mode. It's a flip, meaning you can flip the keyboard all the way back around it, and I can carry around my HP OmniBook Flip like a tablet. Use it in tablet form. Now, if they did that to the MacBook, you can just kiss the iPad goodbye. But I think what Apple's gonna do is try and hold on to the hold on to the iPad lineup for as long as possible. It's an iconic product. It's essentially, I'm not a big tablet person, but even I, who am not the biggest Apple fan you will find, I understand what a staple the iPad is. When you think of a tablet, you think of iPad. It's so good, in fact, that these Android manufacturers haven't really come close in the consumer's eye as far as competition. Now, I personally, if you gave me a choice of here's a Samsung Galaxy Tab S11 or the latest iPad, I personally would choose the Samsung Galaxy Tab S11 or S11 Ultra, whatever the hell they call it. I would take that Galaxy Tab hands down 100 times out of 100 over the iPad. I'm just, again, not an Apple user. But it makes me wonder how long Apple will hold on to the iPad product line if sales start to dwindle. Now, I want everybody to keep an eye on this. Now, this is going to be a long-term. It's going to take a while to come to fruition. This is not going to be overnight. Apple's not just going to implement OLED on these MacBooks, touchscreen, 5G, and then drop the iPad next year. Like, at the moment, if you asked Apple or an Apple product, if you asked an Apple employee, are y'all getting rid of the iPad? They would say, what? Hell no. It's a staple of the company. True. But keep an eye on sales. Now, of course, they're always going to sell iPads, but if it gets to a confliction point, right, where the sales over the next, I'm going to put out here 3 years, and it might realistically be closer to 5 years, dwindle down to the point where it's costing Apple more money to manufacture them. Are they making a profit? What is their revenue on iPads percentage wise? If it gets to a point where, and I can see this in the next 3 to 5 years, because who knows what the new Apple CEO is going to implement. He's a much younger person than Tim Cook, and I think you're really going to see a lot of changes here. I doubt they're going to do a MacBook with a flip version, but you never know. Here's an X factor that we have not even talked about: the iPhone Ultra. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the iPhone Ultra, that's their new foldable. So it's not going to be called iPhone Fold. It's going to be called iPhone Ultra. That is the foldable. So it's going to open up, fold open like the Z Fold 7, right? But it's going to fold open to essentially an 8. When it's completely open, it should be right around 8 inches and diagonally, which lines up right with the iPad mini. I believe the iPad mini is right around 8 inches diagonally when it's, when it's open. Duh, you can't open an iPad, but you get the point. So if Apple puts out a new iPhone Ultra, a new iPhone Fold that opens up to the same size as an iPad mini, then what's the point of getting an iPad? Now, they're going to run different operating systems, right? The iPhone Ultra is going to have iOS. The iPad mini will have iPad OS. So you will see different operating systems. However, with the introduction of this new iPhone foldable, Apple is going to make some tweaks within that operating system that you're not going to find on the iPhone 18 Pro Max or the 17 Pro or the 16 Plus, because there's certain tasks, just like with Android, there's certain tasks that you want to utilize the bigger screen feature. So you're going to have extra multi-window functions, and it'll do more for multitasking on this iPhone Ultra. So it will look slightly similar to iPad. They may bring some iPad multitasking features in that operating system. They may move that in or copy that to the new iPhone Ultra, their new foldable. So you can really see how the iPad can get pinched out here in the next 3 to 5 years. Again, I'm not saying Apple's going to drop the iPad product line, later this year or even next year, but I think there's a chance within this next 3 to 5 years. And again, Apple, in 3 years, they could introduce another foldable iPhone, right? In 3 years and 5 years, you could see the MacBook with a MacBook 360, right? It's possible, I guess. And then you're really going to see the iPad get pinched out, because then you have the MacBook here, the iPhone here, and they're just going to merge and just pinch out the middle child, which is the iPad. So another article here is more proof, more indication that the MacBook Ultra is going to be getting OLED and touch screen support. So I'm going to link these two articles down below in the video description, but just give it a thought. Keep an eye on this. The iPad is iconic. However, look, I don't know where the tech world is going, but when you see both product lines from Apple on each side of the iPad kind of open up their functionalities, the iPad's kind of stuck in the middle. Like, there's not really much you can do more with an iPad, right? It's a tablet and that's it. They're bringing more tablet features to the iPhone and to the MacBook. So why do you need a tablet again? Exactly, because with a tablet, you can just have a tablet. But with a MacBook, with all these extra features, you can sort of see it having the same functionalities as a tablet. And on the other hand, with an iPhone, with the iPhone Fold, when you open it up, it's kind of like a tablet. So you see what I'm saying? I can see the iPad getting pinched out here in the next couple of years. So just keep an eye on that. And of course, subscribe to eSIM Studios, and I'll make sure I stay on top of this for everybody as well. But I do appreciate the time. Please have a safe and enjoyable rest of the day, and I will see y'all tomorrow. Peace.